They didn't knock. They stormed onto my lawn in broad daylight vests, fake badges, all attitude, and one of them punched my wife in the face over a fence notice. I didn't yell, didn't threaten. I just stepped outside barefoot and showed them what real combat looks like. But before that moment, before the sound of her cheekbone cracking, I thought life here was peaceful. Every morning smelled like coffee and wet soil. Emily would kneel by the roses she planted, those white ones she said reminded her of her students, and I'd sit on the porch watching her hum softly to herself. I built that fence with my own hands, measured it twice to match county code, exactly 6 feet tall, no more, no less. It wasn't just a fence. It was the line between our life and the HOA's control, and lately that line had started to blur. When Emily found the bright red violation notice taped to our fence, she didn't panic. She just read it twice, then pulled out her phone and started recording. Calm, steady, deliberate, because she believes truth needs to be held in your hand. Unapproved display, escalating fines in 72 hours, she read. I checked the fence again, tape measure in hand. Still perfect, which meant this wasn't about the fence. It was about us. Or maybe about Emily because she's kind and some people hate kindness they can't control. We were still standing there when we heard them, boots crunching gravel, too heavy, too synchronized. Not police, not delivery. 2 men, both wearing black tactical vests labeled Compliance Division. Their patches were crooked, their gear mismatched. The first, thick neck sweat on his temple's name tag, read Vince. The second, smaller but twitchy, his badge hanging sideways. Tony. Emily kept filming. Vince barked, recording not permitted during an enforcement action. Emily didn't flinch. This is my property. You're being documented for legal protection. He didn't like that. His jaw tightened. Tony cracked his knuckles like a cheap movie villain. I stepped closer, slow, calm, making sure they saw I wasn't intimidated. Morning, I said. They didn't answer. They didn't come to talk. They came to dominate. Vince said, "This residence violates HOA code section," but Emily cut him off, polite and firm. "Show me the ordinance number and your authorization." He had nothing. The silence that followed was heavy like the air before lightning. The neighborhood was watching, curtains shifted, sprinklers stopped mid-spin. And then it happened. Tony muttered, "She thinks that phone makes her safe." Emily didn't even look up. She kept the camera steady. Vince moved a step forward, too close. I shifted my stance. "You're trespassing," I said. Vince smirked. "We're enforcing compliance. Then produce paperwork," I told him. He didn't. Tony's fist came out of nowhere. A wild, heavy swing, coward's punch. It landed on Emily's face hard. Her head snapped. Her phone flew, landed in the grass, still recording. She staggered, one hand to her cheek, blood blooming under her fingers. She didn't scream, just looked. Shocked. Something inside me shifted like a hinge unlocking. I stepped forward once. "Stop," I said. But my voice wasn't mine. It was the voice I hadn't used since deployments, the one meant to end situations. Vince lunged, shoulder first, trying to knock me down. I pivoted left, guided his momentum, and let gravity finish the job. His face hit the porch step with a sound like a broken branch. Tony panicked, swung wildly, missed, overcommitted. His jaw met the sprinkler post. He dropped. I walked to Emily, checked her cheek. Swelling blood, but steady. "It's still recording," she whispered. I nodded. "Good. That's what matters." Then I called 911, voice calm as if I were reporting a traffic light outage. "2 men have assaulted my wife on our property. Medical and law enforcement required." When the paramedics arrived, they didn't ask who started it. The story was written on faces, hers bruised, theirs broken. But as they loaded the men into the ambulance, I saw Vince's phone light up. A text. "Boss lady, use force if needed." 3 words. Time-stamped 3 minutes before the punch. Emily filmed it all. The first thread in what would unravel everything. Our neighbor, Ray Delgado, retired. Detective walked over, hands in pockets, voice low. "HOA didn't send those 2, he said. "Private muscle. No training, no authority. Intimidation on payroll. His eyes narrowed. She's pushing to see who breaks first. He was right, and we were done breaking. That night, when the house went quiet, there was a knock. It was Agnes, our elderly neighbor, clutching a worn manila envelope. "I helped her," she said softly. "Helped Carla." She meant Carla Jennings, the HOA president, the one who smiled like she owned the oxygen. Agnes's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside were photos, handwritten notes, lists of neighbors. Columns labeled debt, divorce, custody, illness, leverage, not records, pressure points. She said every community needs a hierarchy, Agnes whispered. That people behave when you hold something they're afraid to lose. Her eyes filled with tears. "I believed her, until I saw her send those men after you." Ray arrived minutes later. "This," he said, scanning the documents, "is racketeering." He looked at me. "She's not running an HOA, she's running a control network." The next morning, another visitor, Greg Lamb, Carla's ex-husband. He looked hollow, like someone who'd spent years surviving her shadow. "She started this with me," he said quietly. He handed me a phone, old and cracked. Recordings from when she drank. He pressed play. Carla's voice slurred cold. "I control this neighborhood. You want compliance? Apply pressure until they break." He slid a folder across the table. Bank statements, shell company transfers, HOA funds rerouted to security contractors. It was all there. Proof. And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Your wife teaches at Sunset Elementary, right. Kids are so vulnerable at 3:15 dismissal." My blood ran cold. That wasn't a threat, it was a promise. Emily came downstairs, saw my face, saw the message. She didn't cry. She just steadied herself on the counter. "They're watching the school," she whispered. I nodded. And, for the first time since the Navy, I felt fear not for me, but for children who trusted the world to be safe. I called Ray. He was there in 6 minutes. "We go by the book," he said. "We report, we escalate to the county, then the state. Threat to a school means federal jurisdiction." He stepped outside, called to the neighbor's voice, steady, "They're threatening our kids." People came. Mothers, fathers, teachers. Fear turned into fury. Mrs. Patterson said it first. "We protect the school together." And that was it. We organized. Rotating pickups, cameras at every gate, everyone watching, everyone documenting. Carla's power had always been fear, and now fear belonged to us. A week later, we gathered at the community center. Packed room. No bake sales, no raffles, just tired faces done being quiet. Ray set up a projector. Emily's video played first the fake enforcers, the punch, the blood. The room went silent except for someone whispering, "Dear God." Then the photo of Vince's phone. Use force if needed. Ray projected Agnes's documents next. Pages of names, debts, secrets. Carla's handwriting all over them. You could feel the room shift, anger turning to understanding. This wasn't about fences, it was about control. Mrs. Patterson, the HOA vice president, raised her hand. "I call for a vote of no confidence." Dozens of hands rose instantly. The result, unanimous. Carla Jennings was done, or so we thought. The doors opened. Carla herself walked in, tailored suit, cold smile. "You people think you can survive without me?" she hissed. "You don't even know what Phase 3 is." And then she left. No shouting. Just that. 3 weeks later, the hearing. The courthouse smelled like bleach and old carpet. Emily sat beside me, bruise faded, but not forgotten. Ray carried a binder of evidence like a holy book. Agnes sat with folded hands. And then Carla walked in, perfectly composed. Her lawyer called it a misunderstanding between neighbors. The judge raised one finger, and he stopped talking. Ray presented the evidence, the video, the text, the leverage ledger, the recording of Carla bragging about breaking people with pressure. Every lie collapsed under its own weight. Carla stood and said coldly, "People are weak. They need order. Without me, this community falls apart." The judge's voice was calm but sharp. Order without consent isn't order. It's oppression. The gavel didn't slam, it settled. Guilty on all counts. The sentence wasn't prison, it was poetic. 18 months probation. Permanent ban from all HOA positions. And 200 hours of community service at Sunset Elementary. Under supervision. Carla didn't speak as she was escorted out. She didn't have to. The silence said everything. She'd spent years ruling by fear. Now, she'd spend months scrubbing cafeteria tables under the watchful eyes of the people she'd tried to control. When the doors closed behind her, I didn't cheer. I just breathed. Because justice doesn't roar. It arrives quiet, certain, unshakable. And that's what this whole thing taught me. Peace isn't about silence. It's about standing your ground when someone tries to take it.